Welcome, welcome. Mentalism, correspondence, vibration, polarity, rhythm, cause and effect, gender. Countdown initiated. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Welcome, everyone. We are live, and it is Tuesday. Trust the process. We struggle with that one because we don't understand the process. Every cause has its effect, and every effect has its cause. So to trust the process simply means that you know that every cause has its effect and every effect has its cause. If there is an effect, meaning if something happens, it was caused by something. And if you have a cause, you will get an effect. And it's not delayed, you know. Cause and effect happen together. So because we don't know this, we tend to not trust the process. But if you can remember cause and effect, you'll know. You'll know. And if you know the cause, you can predict the effect. Well, how can you be so sure of the effect? The principle of correspondence, as within, so without. As above, so below. So if you are looking at this cause, what is the cause? Well, then the effect has to match the cause. That's why you can quote unquote predict it. Right? So trusting the process is very simply knowing that every cause has its effect and every effect has its cause. For instance, Science 101, Chemistry 101, baking soda and vinegar. You mix those two things together. You know, acid and a base. What happens? It gets all fizzy. Cause and effect. Cause and effect. This is what you're doing. And because you know cause and effect, and you want to, I learned this, that if there's corrosion on the head of your battery in the car, well, that's acidic, is it not? So sprinkle a little baking soda on there, and it will get rid of the corrosion. Well, because it will fizz. It will dissolve it for you. Cause and effect. Right? So when you want to trust the process, look at the effect, because that's the first thing you're going to see, because it is the action. Look at it. What are you doing? You see the effect. You see what you're doing. And because you see what you're doing, you'll begin to understand what the cause is. You'll ask yourself, why did I do that? Look at what you did. Just look at what you did, and you'll see why you did it. You will see the underlying cause, whether it is fear, whether it is courage, whether it is sadness, whether it is happiness, whether it is loneliness. You will see why you did what you did. You will see your cause. And when you see the cause and you go back to the effect that you're presently experiencing, you'll say, oh, I see you. Think about it. Every cause has its effect, and every effect has its cause. When you judge yourself, what does it make you feel like? When you walk around with guilt, shame, anger at yourself, what does that make you feel like? See? It doesn't make you feel good, does it? It makes you feel unworthy. It makes you feel unlovable. It makes you feel, well, what's the point of even going on? So what it makes you feel like. See that effect of how you feel? You feel it? Well then, what is the cause? The cause is how you talk to yourself. The way you speak to yourself brings about an effect in your life. You just have to know this. So that once you know it, you will now determine, hey, how do I want to talk to myself? Because the way I talk to myself is going to cause me to act. That's the process. The way you speak to yourself will cause you to act. That's the process. So then to trust the process means you decide how to speak to yourself, because you know the outcome of speaking to yourself is acting it out. So the process is not unknown to you. Hello? The process is not unknown to you. Why is it not unknown? Because you have chosen the effect, thereby bringing about the cause. What's the effect? What you're doing to yourself as you speak to yourself is the effect. To help you grasp what effects are, they are actions, behaviors, feelings. Those are all effects. Right? So if you know the effect, you'll be able to tell what cause is going to be there. Not because you have a crystal ball, but because you know the principle of correspondence as within, so without. You also know the principle of rhythm. It compensates. So your level of intensity, the passion with which you feel something, it requires matching causes. The intensity of something that you feel tells you the intensity of the cause. So if it took very little to rile you up, Listen, if it took very little to rile you up, then your riling will not be intense. But if you are riled up to the extent, you'll know what I mean, when you have to say, oh, what the, right? What the giddy up, man? You see that level of intensity? It has to show up in that same level on the outside. Ponder it. Ponder it. And you'll understand what it means to trust the process. Again, the process is not unknown. The moment you choose the effect or the desired end that you want to experience, you have selected the cause. Cause and effect go together. So the moment you choose an effect, the moment you choose how you want to behave, how you want to feel, you will bring about the matching cause. And that is how you trust the process, by knowing. Well, experiment with it then. How else will you know? When you go through your day, as I've mentioned to you, the easiest way is to look for the coincidences. Look for every time you say, oh my God, what a coincidence. Look for that coincidence, and you will start to see how the process unfolds for you. You already know how it's going to end because you have chosen it. So then the process is nothing to be feared. Because we always know. What do we always know? We always know that we are. And as long as you know that you are, you will answer the question, what do I want to become? It's a simple thing. Look for every time today when you say, oh my God, what a coincidence. Look for every time you do it today. And as you begin to observe the quote unquote coincidences, as you begin to see them, just watch. Watch it and you'll see. And what it helps you to do is trust the process. Ponder that. What is the desired outcome? In other words, what would I be doing if I were my ideal person? What would I be doing? You are choosing the effect. So if you choose the effect, it has a cause. If you choose the effect, it already has a cause. So as long as you know that, look at the effect, and it will tell you what type of cause you're going to get. Look at the effect. How does it make you feel? How does it make you feel? Then that cause that shows up has to match. So you're going to feel in that way as well, as opposed to fretting and worrying. Oh my God, what if something bad happens? You see that fear? It's okay that you feel it. Put it into perspective now. Hmm? Hmm? Try it. That effect that you feel, if it makes you feel, this is what feelings are for. They are the barometer, the thermometer. Hmm? Just like if you put chum in the water, what eats the chum? Well, the shark does. So you put chum in the water, you have to know that some kind of predator will be there. Well, they don't show up for lettuce. They don't show up for a salad. Right? So look at cause and effect. Look for it. And the way you look for it is to select. Listen, you can select the cause. Well, you know what effect it will bring. Right? Begin to observe it in your everyday life. And you will recognize, one, that you become courageous. Why would you become courageous? Why would you become bold? Because the boldness is not in the thing that you choose. The boldness emerges as a result of the choosing. Because you will recognize that when you choose the cause or you choose the effect, that it will unfold. That's where the courage comes from. Not from what one chooses, but that one does choose. Ponder it. Now, how do you apply it to your everyday life? Per se, you're at your job. Do you like it? Do you turn up your nose at your job? What do you feel like as you're driving to work? What do you feel like? When you're driving to work, you see that feeling? And then the way you talk to yourself because of that feeling? If that feeling is one of, oh man, I gotta go there again today. Why I always gotta fight all the time? What do you think is gonna happen if you're fighting in your mind's eye? That's the cause. So obviously the effect has to match. If you are arguing within, you will argue on the outside. This is what I'm trying to convey to you. Check that inner conversation. So now a situation, a cause, will arise because or as a result of what you feel like, and it will always match. So if you catch yourself and you say, whoo, girl, Ooh, you fit in the fight today. Look at you. You feel so angry today. Ooh. Listen, when you start talking to yourself like that, you're going to laugh, you know. You'll feel like you're nuts. But look at what you're doing. You're acknowledging how you feel. And then in that same moment, you're saying, wait, but if I continue feeling this way, I am guaranteed that somebody's going to catch these hands. And I'm too pretty for prison. So, you know what? I'm all right. I'm good. I'm good. You literally will start to diffuse your anger when you realize what you're doing and how it makes you feel and the outcome of it. It all happens rather quickly. Sometimes so quickly, if you don't practice, right? Observing yourself, it happens so quickly. You're like, ah, snap. How did I end up in an argument again? Because you didn't slow your roll. You didn't slow down. Slow down and observe it. Right? But if you feel, at ease with yourself, if you feel relaxed, well, if you feel relaxed, that's not going to bring tension. Relaxation has to bring more of itself. So if you say, but Angela, I was relaxed and I still ended up fighting somebody, then go back to the drawing board without judgment and recognize that the argument is within. Sometimes we don't want to hear that. What do you mean I am the cause? Or I'm not your cause? There's no shame in that. In knowing that you're the cause. At least if you know the cause, you'll know the effect. So if you know you and how you feel and how you're talking to yourself, you know the effect that will emerge. It has to be a matching one, a corresponding one. So when you know it, you can say, I know how this is. I know how this is going to play out. I want it to play out another way. You want it to play out another way. Define the other way. You know how you define it? By way of your feeling. That is the effect. I trust that this makes a little bit of sense to you so that you will grasp what it truly means to trust the process. Just next time you hear trust the process, you'll know what that means. It means, how am I feeling today? I really like this feeling. How many times a day can I feel this feeling? Yes, do that. Observe. You see, sometimes when we say, oh, test it. Now, depending on how you feel about tests, I don't like tests. Because they don't always test what you understand, They test what you can regurgitate. So take your time. That's why I said to you, if you check how you feel, get out the barometer. It's your feelings. If something happened, if you saw something on the news or you heard it on the radio and you get all riled up, now you're the one who's walking around with the anger. You're the one who's walking around looking for the fight. You will say, well, I wasn't looking for that. You weren't looking for it with eyes. You're not looking for it with eyes. You're looking for it by way of feeling. When you get up in the middle of the night and you do not turn on a light, how do you make your way to the bathroom? Because you know what it feels like. I'm sure you do. You know what it feels like. You know that if you're going down the right pathway or not to get to the bathroom in the dark. Because of the feeling, it is familiar. And because that feeling is familiar, you know where you will end up. Oh, look, here's the bathroom. And you got there in the dark.